Before we dive into this absolutely heartbreaking story, I need you to stop right now and hit that subscribe button. Because what I'm about to share with you, it's going to devastate you. It's going to make you question how much you really know about the people you love. This is the Conviction Chamber, where we expose the darkest crimes and the most unthinkable betrayals. Right now, drop a comment and tell me what state you're watching from. California, Texas, Georgia, Florida, New York? I want to know where my Conviction Chamber family is watching from today. Comment your state below, and let's build this community together. Now, let me ask you something. When you're expecting a baby, that's supposed to be the happiest time of your life, right? You're planning nurseries, picking out names, dreaming about the future. You trust your partner completely. You believe you're building a family together, building a life. But what if everything you believed was a lie? What if the person you trusted most in the world was hiding something so dark, so sinister, so unthinkable, that it would end in tragedy? That's exactly what happened to Marcus Thompson and Elise Carter, a couple expecting their first child, a couple that seemed perfect on the outside, but behind closed doors. Something evil was growing, something that would end with one of them dead and the other behind bars for life. This is their story. Marcus Thompson was 32 years old, living in Baltimore, Maryland. He worked as a construction supervisor, managing large building projects across the city. Tall, muscular, covered in tattoos that told the story of his journey from the streets to success. A full sleeve of city skyline and clock imagery on his left arm, praying hands with his mother's name on his right forearm. Marcus had worked hard to build a good life. He'd grown up poor, watched his father struggle with addiction, saw his neighborhood consumed by violence. But Marcus, he wanted more. He went to trade school, got his contractor's license, built a career. He was proud of what he'd accomplished. And then he met Elise Carter. Elise was 28 years old, working as a teacher at a local elementary school. She was beautiful, intelligent, kind. She had a small dove tattoo on her shoulder representing peace and delicate script on her ribcage that said, "Faith over fear." They met at a community event in the summer of 2021. Marcus was there volunteering, helping to build a playground. Elise was there with her students. They started talking, exchanged numbers, and within weeks, they were inseparable. Marcus fell hard, faster than he'd ever fallen for anyone. Elise was everything he'd been looking for. She was supportive, loving, ambitious. She believed in him. She saw his potential. She made him want to be better. 6 months into their relationship, Marcus proposed. He got down on one knee in the same playground where they'd met and asked Elise to be his wife. She said yes without hesitation. They got married in a small ceremony in March of 2022. Just close friends and family. Nothing fancy. Just two people in love, promising to build a life together. And then, in September of 2022, Elise told Marcus she was pregnant. Marcus was overjoyed. Absolutely overjoyed. He'd always wanted to be a father, wanted to give his child everything he never had growing up, a stable home, a loving family, opportunities, hope. He immediately started preparing, started saving money, started planning for the baby. He converted the spare bedroom into a nursery, painted it soft yellow because they didn't know the gender yet, bought a crib, a changing table, everything they'd need. Elise seemed happy too. She'd talk about baby names, about what kind of mother she wanted to be, about their future as a family. She seemed excited, nervous but excited. But Marcus started noticing things. Small things at first, things that didn't quite add up. Elise said she was 3 months pregnant, but she wasn't showing at all. Marcus figured every pregnancy was different. Some women show later than others. It wasn't a big deal. Elise said she had morning sickness, but Marcus never actually saw her getting sick. She'd go into the bathroom, close the door, and he'd hear water running. But that was it. Elise said she had doctor's appointments, but she always went alone. When Marcus offered to come with her, she'd say it wasn't necessary, that it was just routine checkups, that he should save his time off for when the baby actually arrived. Marcus wanted to be understanding, wanted to be supportive, so he didn't push, didn't question, just trusted that everything was fine. But everything was not fine. As the months went by, Marcus's concerns grew. By December, Elise should have been 6 months pregnant. She should have been showing, should have been feeling the baby move, should have been sharing ultrasound photos with family and friends. But there were no ultrasound photos, no baby bump, no movement, nothing. When Marcus asked about it, Elise would get defensive. She'd say every pregnancy was different, that her doctor said everything was fine, that Marcus needed to stop worrying so much. But Marcus couldn't stop worrying. Something felt wrong, really wrong. In January of 2023, Marcus decided to do something he never thought he'd do. He went through Elise's things, her purse, her phone, her medical records, looking for proof, looking for answers. What he found, it changed everything. There were no medical records, no ultrasound photos, no doctor's appointments, nothing. Elise hadn't been to an OB/GYN, hadn't had any prenatal care, hadn't had any tests or checkups, because Elise wasn't pregnant. She'd never been pregnant. The entire thing was a lie. Marcus confronted Elise that night, laid out everything he'd found, demanded the truth. Elise broke down immediately, started crying, said she could explain, said it wasn't what he thought. "Then what is it, Elise?" Marcus asked, his voice shaking. "Because it looks like you've been lying to me for 4 months about being pregnant." I thought I was pregnant," Elise said. "I really did. I took a test and it was positive. But then I lost the baby. I miscarried." Marcus felt his heart break. "What? When? Why didn't you tell me?" "I was scared," Elise said. "I didn't want to disappoint you. You were so excited about the baby, so I kept pretending. I kept saying I was pregnant because I didn't know how to tell you the truth." Marcus didn't know what to feel. Sadness, anger, confusion, all of it at once. "Elise, we could have dealt with a miscarriage together. We could have grieved together. But instead you lied to me for months. You let me plan for a baby that doesn't exist. You let me build a nursery, buy baby clothes, tell my family they were going to be grandparents. How could you do that?" "I'm sorry." Elise was sobbing now. "I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. I should have told you. But I can fix this. We can try again. We can have a real baby." Marcus wanted to believe her, wanted to forgive her. But something still felt off. Her story didn't make sense. Why would she fake being pregnant for months after a miscarriage? Why wouldn't she just tell him the truth? He decided to give her space, give himself space. Figure out what he wanted to do, whether he could forgive this, whether their marriage could survive this level of deception. But he had no idea. The lies went so much deeper. 2 weeks later, Marcus came home from work early. He'd been on a job site, but they'd finished ahead of schedule. He pulled into the driveway around 3 in the afternoon, walked into the house, and immediately knew something was wrong. He could hear Elise on the phone in the bedroom. Her voice was strained, emotional. She was talking to someone, and she sounded desperate. "I know," she was saying. "I know I need to end it, but I can't. Not yet. I need more time." Marcus stood in the hallway listening, his heart pounding. "He doesn't know anything," Elise continued. "I've been careful. The pregnancy story bought me months. He's so focused on the fake baby that he's not paying attention to anything else." Marcus felt like ice water had been poured over him. What was she talking about? What else was she hiding? "I just need a few more weeks," Elise said. "Then I'll have enough money and I can disappear. He'll never find me." Marcus pushed open the bedroom door. Elise jumped, dropping her phone. Her face went white. "Who were you talking to?" Marcus demanded. "Nobody. Just a friend." "Don't lie to me, Elise. I heard everything. What money? What are you planning?" Elise tried to come up with an excuse, but Marcus was done believing her lies. He picked up her phone, looked at the call history, the number she'd been talking to. It was a man named Devon, someone Marcus had never heard of. He scrolled through the text messages, And what he found, it destroyed him. Elise had been having an affair for over a year with a man named Devon Richards, long before she'd told Marcus she was pregnant, long before they'd even gotten married. The messages were explicit, romantic, planning for a future together, a future that didn't include Marcus. But it got worse, so much worse, because the fake pregnancy, it wasn't about covering up a miscarriage, it was about money. Elise had been stealing from Marcus, small amounts at first, a few $100s here and there from their joint account. But then it escalated. Thousands, tens of thousands. She'd opened credit cards in Marcus's name, taken out loans, maxed out their accounts, all while pretending to be pregnant, pretending to buy things for the baby, pretending to plan their future. In reality, she was planning to leave him, take all the money she'd stolen and run away with Devon, start a new life, leave Marcus broke, heartbroken, and destroyed. Marcus looked at his wife. This woman he'd loved, this woman he'd trusted, this woman he'd thought he was building a family with, and he realized he'd never really known her at all. "How could you do this?" Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. "How could you lie about everything? The pregnancy, the affair, the money, everything." "Marcus, I can explain." "Explain what? That you're a liar, a thief, a cheater? That you've been using me this entire time? It's not like that. I do love you. I got in over my head. I made mistakes." "Mistakes?" Marcus laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "You didn't make mistakes, Elise. You planned this. You've been planning this for months, maybe years. Please." Elise reached for him. "Please don't do this. We can work through this. I'll pay back the money. I'll end things with Devon. We can start over." But Marcus was done, completely done. He told Elise to leave, pack her things and get out. He was filing for divorce, pressing charges for fraud, reporting the credit cards, all of it. Elise panicked. She couldn't leave. If Marcus reported her, she'd go to jail. Devon wouldn't want her if she was broke and facing criminal charges. Her entire plan was falling apart. And that's when Elise made a decision, a horrible, unthinkable decision. If she couldn't have the life she wanted, then Marcus couldn't have his life either. That night, February 23rd, 2023, Marcus went to bed exhausted, emotionally drained. His whole world had collapsed in a matter of hours. His marriage was over. His finances were destroyed. The woman he loved was a complete stranger. He fell asleep around 11 p.m. And he didn't wake up because Elise had put something in his drink, sleeping pills, a lot of them, enough to make sure he wouldn't wake up for hours. While Marcus was unconscious, Elise went to work. She went to the garage, started Marcus's truck, and left it running. Carbon monoxide, slow, quiet, deadly. Then she went back inside, staged the scene, made it look like Marcus had been drinking, like he'd been depressed, like he'd gone to the garage to work on his truck and accidentally left it running. She even called 911, crying, hysterical, saying she'd found her husband unconscious in the garage, saying she didn't know what happened, saying she needed help. By the time paramedics arrived, Marcus Thompson was dead. 32 years old, killed by the woman he'd married, the woman he'd trusted, the woman he'd thought he was building a future with. At first, Marcus's death was ruled an accident. Tragic, but accidental. Carbon monoxide poisoning. Marcus had been working on his truck. The garage door was closed, and the fumes had overcome him. Elise played the grieving widow perfectly, crying at the funeral, accepting condolences, talking about how much she'd loved him, how they were going to have a baby together, how her whole world had been destroyed. But Marcus's family, they didn't believe it. Something felt wrong. Marcus was too careful, too experienced. He would never work on a running vehicle in a closed garage. It didn't make sense. His sister Tamara started asking questions, started investigating, and what she found, it led straight to Elise. Tamara discovered the affair, the stolen money, the fake pregnancy, the plan to leave Marcus, all of it. And she went straight to the police. The police reopened the investigation. They looked at Marcus's phone records, bank statements, text messages. They interviewed Devin Richards. They examined the scene more carefully. And they found evidence. Evidence that Marcus had been drugged. Evidence that the scene had been staged. Evidence that this wasn't an accident. It was murder. Elise Carter was arrested on March 15, 2023. Just 3 weeks after Marcus's death, she was charged with first-degree murder, fraud, and identity theft. During the trial, the full extent of Elise's deception came to light. The prosecution presented evidence showing that Elise had been planning to leave Marcus for months, that she'd been systematically stealing from him, that the fake pregnancy was a distraction, a way to keep Marcus focused on something other than their finances. They presented text messages between Elise and Devin. Messages where Elise talked about how much money she'd stolen, how close she was to having enough to leave, how Marcus was too stupid to notice. They presented evidence that Elise had researched carbon monoxide poisoning online, had looked up how to stage an accident, had planned Marcus's murder down to the last detail. Devin Richards testified. He said Elise had told him she was going to leave Marcus, that she'd promised they'd start a new life together, but he swore he had no idea she was planning to kill him. He thought she was just going to divorce him and take half his assets. Elise's defense tried to argue that Marcus's death really was an accident, that the evidence was circumstantial, that Elise was being blamed for a tragedy she didn't cause, but the jury didn't believe it. The evidence was too strong, the lies were too many, the motive was too clear. After 3 days of deliberation, they returned with a verdict: guilty, guilty of first-degree murder, guilty of fraud, guilty on all counts. Elise Carter was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Marcus's family was devastated. They'd lost their son, their brother, their loved one. And for what? For money? For a man who didn't even want Elise once he found out what she'd done? Devin Richards cut all contact with Elise the moment she was arrested. He wanted nothing to do with her. He'd been used, manipulated, dragged into a murder investigation. He moved to a different state, changed his number, tried to forget the whole nightmare. The fake pregnancy haunted everyone. Marcus had been so excited about becoming a father, had prepared so carefully, had dreamed so vividly about the future, and it had all been a lie. A cruel, manipulative lie designed to distract him while Elise destroyed his life. Tamara, Marcus's sister, turned the nursery Marcus had built into a memorial. She kept all the baby clothes, the crib, the yellow paint on the walls. A reminder of the child that never existed, the future that was stolen, the brother she'd lost. And Elise. Elise sits in prison today, still claiming she's innocent, still saying it was all a misunderstanding, still lying, even though there's no one left to believe her. So what do we learn from this tragic, heartbreaking story? What lessons can we take from the murder of Marcus Thompson? First, trust, but verify. Marcus trusted Elise completely. When she said she was pregnant, he believed her. He never asked for proof, never went to a doctor's appointment, never questioned the inconsistencies, and that trust, it was exploited. Second, financial secrecy in a relationship is a massive red flag. Elise was stealing from Marcus for months, and he didn't notice until it was too late. Couples should have financial transparency, should review accounts together, should know where money is going. Third, fake pregnancies are more common than you think, and they're often a sign of deeper psychological issues or manipulation. If someone you love claims to be pregnant but won't provide proof, won't let you attend appointments, won't show you ultrasounds, that's a problem. A serious problem. Fourth, when someone shows you who they really are, believe them. When Marcus discovered Elise had lied about the pregnancy, that should have been the end. He should have left immediately. But he gave her another chance, and it cost him his life. And finally, murder is never the answer. Never. No matter how desperate you are, no matter how trapped you feel, Elise could have just left, could have divorced Marcus, could have dealt with the consequences of her actions. But instead, she chose murder. And now she'll spend the rest of her life in prison. The story of Marcus Thompson and Elise Carter is a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous person in your life is the one sleeping next to you. The one you trust completely. The one you've built a life with. Marcus never saw it coming, never suspected that his wife was capable of such evil, such deception, such violence. And by the time he figured it out, it was too late. He's gone. His family is broken. His future is stolen. All because he loved the wrong person. So I want to hear from you. What do you think about this case? Do you think Elise deserves life in prison, or should she have gotten the death penalty? Do you think Devon shares any blame for what happened? And what about Marcus? Were there warning signs he should have noticed earlier? Comment down below with your thoughts. And don't forget, tell me what state you're watching from. I love hearing from my Conviction Chamber family all across America. If this story shocked you, if it reminded you to pay attention to red flags in your relationships, then hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this story. And most importantly, subscribe to the Conviction Chamber. We bring you the most important, most shocking true crime cases every single week. This has been the Conviction Chamber, where we expose evil, where we seek justice, where we honor victims like Marcus Thompson who deserved so much better. Rest in peace, Marcus. You deserve to be a father. You deserve to build the life you dreamed.